Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to adjourn to closed session.
Well, like closed session.
You want me to be part of this or no?
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
No?
We have to have.
Okay, we'll call you. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's okay. Okay, we're going to bring this meeting back to order, and we have nothing to announce from closed session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, roll call. Everyone is present. Okay, notice to the public. Any member of the public wishing to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district but not on the agenda may do so at this time. May do so during, the public comment period identified on this agenda. By law, subjects not on the agenda cannot be acted upon by the board except to briefly respond, clarify, or refer to staff for review and presentation at a future meeting. The board president will recognize you for public comment on the matters on the agenda at the appropriate time. And we have no correspondence.
I actually have a
we
letter
do,
that
sorry.
someone had for public comment. This was from Jennifer Springfield. It says this: Dear trustees, first I must apologize for not being able to read to this letter to you in person. I have family obligations on most Thursday evenings that do not allow me to attend these meetings. My name is Jennifer Springfield, and I am a part-time librarian on staff at the Dixon Public Library. Working at the library allows me to see what is an important resource we are for many people in our community. If you would like to see statistics of how many people use the library and for what purposes, I'm sure that Steve can prepare and present them to you. In spite of the importance of the library to our community members, it seems that the board has a great deal of disregard for the staff, the library building, the library patrons, and the community of Dixon. This opinion is based on the amount of time and effort that the board does not put into the affairs of the library. I realize that you may believe that your greater responsibility lies in serving the school board. This makes many of the staff feel like we are the ugly stepchildren who don't get much attention or regard. The library board recently directed Steve to create a public survey. The answers received from the survey are very indicative of how the community feels about our library. I assume that you have been given the summary of the said survey. The answers were clear. Our community feels that the library building is shoddy and in despair, and that the programming and space we provide is lacking in many ways. By the way, there is an article in the Dixon Tribune about new carpet being installed, our current carpet, 28 years ago. Another item that is in serious disrepair is the library policy manual. Said manual was created by Greg Atkins, the process of which I witnessed as a staff member at this time. The policies were copied and pasted from other policies posted on the internet. Some of our policies contradict others. There is no consistency. This should have been addressed by the board as soon as Greg retired. Yet here we are, years later, dealing with adding a policy about extra help employees when many of our staff have been categorized as extra help for years. This is just one of the business practices that are followed because there is not an adequate policy manual. Ask Gina or Steve to explain the business practices to you. I would suggest that your next survey you request be a staff survey. We know the things that could be improved and provide a better library for our community. After all, that is why we are working there and why you are on the board, to serve the Dixon community. I'm begging you to please give our library the attention and support that it needs from a board of trustees. Please take your job seriously as we staff take our job seriously to provide the best possible to our the best library possible to our community. Sincerely yours, Jennifer Springfield.
Okay. I know it's not on our agenda, but I think that's a good idea to maybe survey the staff and find out what they think would be some good programs or additions or renovations or whatnot to the library.
Okay,
Can you do that?
sure.
Well, I think that was also one of the ideas of having a committee to give advice and have an employee on that committee, but we haven't gotten anyone interested in doing it, so.
Yeah. I mean, it'd just be nice to hear from the inside what, you know, like the 28-year-old carpet or, you know, stuff like that, what the employees think. Because, you know, if we have a few, you know, spare dollars here and there, it would be nice to be able to use it.
Yeah, that's part of the whole thing of having the different design people come out. That's
Okay.
one of the aspects.
Okay. Okay, any other correspondence?
There's the letter I gave you.
Did she say to read it?
She had it addressed to the whole board and Melissa in particular, because she thought Melissa was still the
Yeah,
president.
the only way it can be read to all of us is on the record, right?
Yeah,
So-
so
Okay.
who is it from?
It's from Nancy Schrott. I mean, it's an email
Okay,
that was sent to all of us,
okay.
so, okay. It has been brought to my attention that the DUSD Board, which also serves as a Dixon Public Library Board, is considering bringing back an audacious giant from the past, that being the Commission, back to life. Call it what you will, be it a committee or a commission, it's a reincarnation of an unpopular body with no teeth. The members of the school board knew when they were elected that their jobs would include governance of the library. It's a well-known fact that most, if not all, members of the school board dislike the library part of their jobs. To return the library to another layer of governance would be a mistake. The school board would still have the final vote. Has anyone considered a different idea? The Dixon Library serves a governing board that knows and cares about the library. Oh, I'm sorry. The Dixon Library deserves a governing board that knows and cares about the library and has the power to make decisions for the library. Dixon Public Library deserves a duly elected, compensated library board.
Compensated. Is that what that said?
It says Dixon Public Library deserves a duly elected, compensated library board. Compensated, yep. Maybe it's competent. This would take that unwanted responsibility off the shoulders of the Dixon Unified School District Board. Of course, there's a certain amount of compensation that the members of the school board receive. This would necessarily be reduced because the responsibility would be reduced. The reduction of the compensation for the school board should logically be granted to the library board. I have advocated a separate board for the Dixon Library for a long time. It is time now when the board members currently overseeing the library dislike that part of the job so very much. Nancy Schrott. Okay.
I would just like to add that I've also advocated a separate board for a long time, and what we found out when we looked into that was that it would cost the taxpayers an enormous amount of money to have a separate election and a separate ballot for that. So it isn't about the $200 compensation, whether we'd split that fairly with the library board, which I'd be more than happy to do.
I mean, it accounts for.
But it's about $30,000 for the ballot and to elect a library board, and we can't even get people to sit on a commission. So the idea, and frankly, we can't even get people to run for the school board. So the idea that we would have another $30,000 expense that we would take out of the money that we currently put into the library, whether it be books or anything else, for another ballot item for people who now currently don't run for the school board, to sit on a library board that we can't get anyone to do for a volunteer basis as a committee seems kind of unreasonable to me. So there are other options. We've looked into other options. We've also looked into having Solano County be the organization that runs the library. We certainly have other options. This seems to be the most cost-effective method of doing it. Most often these chambers sit empty when we're here. So, I think we do the best we can with exactly zero input from the community other than the 2 letters we read tonight, so.
And I would also say, I would just like to add that I do care about the library, and I do actually have spent a great deal of time trying to make sure that the library is successful and that staff's happy, that patrons are happy. That's why we've leaned towards some of the decisions that we've made.
Okay.
I'll just say, I'm glad they wrote in, even though being slammed doesn't feel good. But, you know, because I do want to hear about things that they want to improve, and I think the survey's a good idea for that. But of course, any library employees or any community individuals can come to one of these meetings and talk to us and tell us what they think needs to
Right.
be done. And like you said, we're usually sitting here with no one here. So please, if anyone is watching, come in and tell us these things.
Right.
We welcome it.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. I'm sorry, Guy, did you want to say anything? Okay. Okay. Is there any public comment? Mr. Dolan, would you like to speak? Okay. All right. No public comment, no guest and presentations. Director's report.
I brought along Gina tonight, our accountant, to talk about the budget, as was requested last time.
Thank you.
So if you guys have questions, please address her.
Thank you, Gina, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. So, where is I on this? So I could ask a couple questions? So, one of the questions I had, just because I was watching where we're at, I mean, we're way ahead on the revenue line.
Yes,
I mean, it looks like we're projecting that we're gonna be significantly above on revenue this year. Is that correct?
yes,
Is that, should it carry through the rest of the fiscal year?
yes.
So, I mean, I'm just rough numbering it, 400,000 over, something like that, on revenue.
Yeah. I have a
Approximately.
analysis I did here.
Here, it's mainly the sales tax.
That's fine.
So can I ask a question with
Thank
this
you.
being over?
Thank you.
The designer that we've had come in, is that in a budget or would that come out of our overage? Or is that written
No.
into the,
Thank you so
We have to
much.
decide which options we're gonna do, whether we're going to try and renovate the Noah
Yes.
building,
Thank you.
expand the current building, or just do an
Hey,
interior renovation of the building.
Thank you, thank you.
so are they two separate things? Because I know we have funds set aside for one project, but would be just redesigning and making our buildings look nice and presentable to the community. Wouldn't that be kind of a different thing, a separate?
It could be. I'd like to be able to present all the different options at one upcoming meeting, so we can talk about which direction we think is best.
Do we know when we'll have that? Because I feel like we've been talking about,
Yeah, I have
For a
some
while.
updates in
okay,
the next
perfect.
section.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
So just to walk you briefly through this page that I just handed you, the chart, the table on the top is the Measure L money, the library sales tax money. And the first column on the left is the month of the sales tax revenue. And the second column where it says the DPLD month, that's the month we receive the money. So usually there's a 3-month lag
Okay,
behind the Board of Equalization and us getting it. And so I put down the fiscal year 15-16 so you could see the trend there in the blue, and you can also see it on the graph below in the blue line. And then 16-17 in the red, and same thing on the graph. And then I did a variance for you where you can see mainly it's increasing, not going down.
all right.
And then if you go to the right, to the green column, that's 17-18 revenues, and I did the variance between this year, what we're currently experiencing, and what we did last year. And yeah, we're way ahead. You can see some months they're 76%, 78% greater than
Wow,
last year.
yeah.
So,
We're way ahead, period.
yeah. So the other thing that happened is we're going to have 3, each one of these is an advance. And we usually get 1 a month, so we get 12 a year. Just last month, Solano County changed processes, and instead of mailing us a check every month that we would usually take to the bank and deposit, they're now doing it via journal entry. So it's a lot faster. So we got 2 advances in the month of February.
So that's why that's higher, I get it.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that'll stop. But that's
Yeah.
okay.
So it's a one-time bump.
I understand, okay.
Yeah, so we're
but
getting,
We're still generally almost, what, 40, 50% higher? 76%?
Yes.
Even with the lag, right? So
Yes.
this month is an abnormal thing for February, I get that.
yes. So one of the other things too that I'd like to speak to just briefly is the budgeting process. What we've done is we've used the prior year's budget and we've upped it. We've never used the run rate. Does everyone understand what the run rate is? The run rate is where you take your current results and you use those for your future budgeting. So we haven't done that with the sales tax revenue, and I think it's because the economy and the forecasting and people not knowing, but the board could give us guidance, the director, the board.
Start looking at it.
Yeah, to use the run rate for the next budget, which I'm starting, Steve and I are starting this month to look at the next year's budget.
Well, I mean, the answer is if we've been running at that rate and saving a lot of money, the answer is there's a big cash balance coming in, our ending fund balance. Okay, so one other question, so thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
So did you project out what our final, just rough numbers, what our final revenue is gonna be?
No,
You didn't?
No.
Okay. I mean,
I would just say if you just, what do we have here? No, I
I mean, what are we
didn't.
roughly through the year? 50%?
50% of the budget, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're roughly,
67% of
Yeah.
the fiscal year.
yeah, that's where we're through, right? So we got 30% left. I mean, we're gonna come in, what, 400,000 over on revenue?
Well, actually, if you look at your financial page,
That's what I'm looking at right
yeah, and
here.
if you see the revenue from the,
Yeah,
yeah, we're
We're at
almost at, we're
91%.
almost at 100% right now.
exactly. So I'm saying we got basically.
We're gonna be, yeah,
We're gonna be 400,000 over.
right.
Okay.
So I would say a portion of that, I don't know how much is the budgeting
No, I
process,
understand.
but a lot of it is the growth.
Yeah, I understand. So one other thing, I was looking at the reports basically that are generating this, right? The actual Solana County reports. And I was looking at, I guess would be, I don't know, page 3 of your attachment. Why does the,
Is it page 3 of the summary or the trial balance?
is that the trial balance?
What does it say at the top? I can't read.
Monthly
See.
summary?
Oh, okay, page 3 of the monthly summary, okay.
And it's basically your total actual year-to-date revenue over your total expense, right?
Yes.
Why is that 100,000 over versus this sheet?
So this last page 3 is a consolidation of both funds.
Okay, so, but it's dead on the, so when I look at your Fund 426,
Uh-huh.
the expenditures say 690,099. That's exactly what,
Well, there's no expenses in the other fund.
okay.
We
So there's
have,
100,000 somewhere else that that I'm missing?
are you looking at the revenues on the bottom portion of the fund?
Yeah, I'm looking at down here.
No, further down. No, that
Further.
front page. So the top section is the operations fund,
Okay,
and the bottom section is the public facility fees fund.
okay. Oh, I see, the
Do you see it? Yeah, there you go.
$85,000. I
Yeah.
get it. So that added together is
Right.
basically what the thing is. I got it.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay.
I know, I was,
So would it be accurate from the top line, the 426 fund is our operations fund, is that correct? Our day-to-day?
yes.
And the bottom fund is considered our what fund?
That's the restricted fund to new,
Construction and.
right.
Yeah, new
It can't be used for operations, right?
Right,
So it's for any new construction, upgrades, facilities,
yeah, that's
capital assets?
Yeah, that's the whole thing that the Wilden report was
I
2 years ago.
I understand, I just wanted to make sure, so humor me for a minute. So in 428, we actually have $700,000 in the bank?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I like that idea, that's great. And then I would get, in our operational fund, is that true? We have $1,663,000?
At this time, yeah. I mean, you know, it varies a little bit because we cut checks and things like
It's
that.
a good thing to have that. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
we're about to get about 300,000 or 400,000 more too,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so.
Well, we're
This
gonna-
is just one board member's view, but.
We're getting 300,000 or 400,000 more, but we also have a lot more expenses that will incur too.
Yeah, but is our budget gonna come on to that? Is that correct? I mean, we're thinking our budget's gonna come in from our expenditures at 1,200,000, so we are spending 200,000 more this year, correct? It's, right now, if I'm looking at Fund 426, right?
Yeah.
Our budget is 1,247,000, yeah? I'm looking
1,200,000
at,
where you. Where
the
you-
second
Oh,
column.
yeah, the expenditures, yes.
that's our budget,
Yes,
right? Would that be correct? Mm-hmm. I mean, the answer is.
Right.
We're still gonna come in with a couple 100,000.
Right.
Over, right? So now we're gonna have 1,200,000 in the bank on Fund 426, correct? Okay.
as long as the economy keeps
No,
doing what it's doing.
no, I understand.
Okay.
And look, I'm as conservative as you're saying. I'm not saying, I'm just making sure that the board, as well as myself, completely understand it, that's all.
And can I ask one question? So are we staying up to date on equipment and books, up to date on new books? And where would that be taken out for the budget? Is that under, it wouldn't be under equipment, would it?
For books,
And
Services and supplies.
yeah, I
Services and
don't actually
supplies.
have that.
So it's on the, if you want to look at it on the first page, or you want to look at it the monthly summary.
Okay, the expenditures.
Fund
that's right there.
426.
And so is that enough money to buy enough books to keep us updated with what's currently being published and what's popular and?
Well, we do have space limitations, so, you know, basically we're at the point where we've got to get rid of books or relocate books to add significant numbers of books, just because of the space. But, yeah, I think we do a pretty good job of keeping up to date with demand.
Okay.
And plus, I mean, everybody knows that we can get books from throughout Solano County and from Benicia and St. Helena, and we use their resources to try and keep up with demand for bestsellers or popular titles too.
Okay.
Does anybody else, I mean, I asked for this update. Anybody else have questions? John, I don't know. The only thing I would say is we get closer to the end of the year, and if the fiscal ends up coming in like we think it is, it certainly looks like it's going to. I think we should have certainly agendize an item for us to talk about how we plan to go into the budgeting season. I know you guys are going into budgeting now from a perspective of just repeating to some extent what we've been doing, but I think we need to explore where our operations are and how we might expand. I mean, I would have you
Right.
guys to start to think about that. I'm not gonna
Right.
say we're gonna approve it, but I think we should start at least moving in that
Right,
direction.
and I remember the last time I was here, we talked about the reserves a little bit, increasing it for 6 months, which we haven't done yet.
Okay.
So that's
I mean,
another
I'm
opportunity.
I'm all for that. I'm just, but I think we need to begin to certainly explore how we might move forward. And you certainly should involve staff in that conversation, I would hope.
Well, I'll work with Steve to come up with some budgeting proposals, some bullet points.
Okay.
To get the conversations going next month.
Great.
That'd be super. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. It's
Thank
very
you
helpful.
very,
You're
very
welcome.
much.
And can we check with staff too? Maybe at a staff meeting, just ask for some more,
Input.
just I know that there's a designer, but it would be really great to get their input as to needs that need to be fulfilled in the library. as
Okay.
well.
And then the other thing, and it's reference this because I did ask for it, and I want to thank you guys for that. Then you did bring the asset list.
Yeah,
So I just want to make mention of that too. So it fits under budget, so I appreciate that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thanks, Gina.
yep.
Okay, library activities.
Okay, well, since we're on this topic, I thought I'd bring up some stuff that I was kind of waiting for a future meeting to talk about, but one thing, Gina did a salary survey of Yolo and Solano counties for similar positions. And I guess I could look it up in the policy manual, but there's, one of the policies is that our salary compensation should be comparable to Yolo and Solano. And we're pretty comparable to YOLO's, but we're lagging far behind Solano's salaries for similar positions. So, looking at that salary survey, will probably suggest to the board to consider at a future meeting, perhaps giving a 15 to 20% raise for staff across the board, which will bring us up pretty much to Solano's standards.
So the only thing I would caution you on this comment is that, I mean, I am bullish on that thing, but I'm also pretty conservative. The only thing I would say to you is that Solano is in a lot different position than we are from a tax revenue perspective and what they get for their library. So, I mean, that's a big number that you said, but we need to look at those numbers and we need to review them, and we need to review and see what YOLO is. And, you know, we are who we are. I mean, I'm not saying the services in our, and I'm not saying we shouldn't give a raise. What I'm saying is we need to look at that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't even gonna bring it up till.
And that's a
the
big
future
number, what you
meeting,
said,
but-
so.
So if you could, when you do have it on the agenda, can you bring the studies that you looked
Yeah.
at for us
Yeah,
to
yeah,
review?
sure.
That would be great as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just thought I'd interject.
No,
that since we're
absolutely.
talking about
No, it
the
makes
surplus.
sense.
It's
We should.
something that
Absolutely.
we can look at.
Yep.
Also, I did get an estimate from the architect as to what it would cost to remodel the Miller Building this week. But I had a lot of questions for him, and he said that he was sick. He'd get back to me later on those.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that at the next meeting, I can get the architect's proposals and the proposals from the design groups, and we can talk about what our best options are. I did get a third proposal from a design group in San Francisco, Groups for Architecture. Because when we talked about it at a staff meeting, people asked if I could find a design firm that had more direct library experience than the two we were talking to. And they have quite a bit. Their proposal is more than twice what the other firms were quoting. So I had quite a few questions about their proposal, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. So that's the status of both of those. The audit's coming along. There's a few more requests to be worked on, and then I have to do one management discussion and analysis, and then I think that the audit will be done. I'm not sure if we'll be ready for the next meeting, but if not, then the meeting after that. I gave everybody a copy of the list of our fixed assets over $5,000 and an inventory of the items over $500. That's the list that I provided to the auditor. And then I also gave everybody a copy of the old list that Solano had. And I'm waiting to hear back from them as to the best way to remove the items that we no longer use from that list. How we're going to get rid of those and get our fixed asset list up to date with Solano. Our E-rate extension for internet services was approved, so we're gonna get discount internet services for the next year from the same provider that we get now. But the phone service, we've already maximized the amount of E-rate discounts we can get, so next year is going to be the full cost. We're not gonna get the 60% off that we were getting. That's all of that kind of stuff. I did give a presentation to a class at Solano Community College last Thursday. When it was raining so hard, I drove out to Fairfield. And the class, they wanted a community leader who provides services to their city. They wanted me to come and talk about the library services that we provide to Dixon. And one of the people in the class was a mom that comes to our story times all the time. So that's how I got invited to that. And that's pretty much all I have for library activities tonight.
Okay. Ongoing business?
The Student Success Initiative. This was the program we're a pilot of, where the aim of the program is to try and get library cards into the hands of all the students. And this is an item that Luke wanted to discuss tonight, too.
Yeah, so, and it's fitting that we have some of our school district people here.
That's true.
So, and it's funny that we're going to talk about this because I actually heard a story, someone who was in the library just a couple weeks ago on the weekend, and a little girl was with her mom, came up, wanted to get a book, went up, and the librarian on service there said, well, your mom has to have ID. And the girl went back, and my friend heard the mom tell the girl, I don't have ID, we can't get a book. So what I'd like to do, and we could explore this with the district to see what exactly we need to do. It's my understanding that currently, in order to get a library card, they have to have a parent or an adult with a driver's license or a California ID of some sort. And my thought was, if that's not an actual legal requirement, which I suspect it is not, what we really need to know is just that there's an adult, that they live in Dixon, and that there's an adult willing to be responsible for children's books that they take home. And my thought was, well, if the kids are already registering with the school district, we have a unique opportunity here, since the board is one and the same, that we could simply put, when they register for school, a document in there in some way that says, would you like your child to have a library card? This authorizes the school district to share your information with the Dixon Library. And make it so simple that they sign one extra spot and now they get a library card when they register for school. I don't know, of course, how the legalities of that would work, and it would be something we'd have to explore, but it seems to me, the only real downside of doing that is possibly we might have more people that perhaps don't return books. I don't know what we lose every year on books that are not late fees, but actually not returned, and what efforts we make to try to recover those. But I think it would be a positive thing if we could make library cards available to all the kids in town so that we wouldn't have stories like that happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so some of the libraries that are doing it, libraries and school districts working together, some of them are doing the approach that you're saying, and some are doing kind of the opposite approach, where in the literature, when they register for school, it says, unless you specifically object to your child having a library card, your child will be issued a library card.
Well, I like that even more.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the only negative would be if we don't have a
Yeah, I like that
responsible parent willing to make sure that the books get back.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what we lose each year in terms of books not being returned?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Okay.
But one way that other libraries have set this up that seems to be working is that they are issuing a new type of card. It'll be like a student card. The student cards will expire when the person turns 18 years of age. They'll have to get a new library card, and there'll just be a limit of, say, 5 items that can be checked out on that card to limit the potential loss.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And another thing we could do, since we just heard about the fact that we have a budget surplus, is to actually set aside an amount of money that we think every year in lost books, because we think that that benefits, right, the community in terms of readers and in terms of everybody having access to the library. And I think that's sort of what our public library is about anyway, right? So we just sort of write it off and say we don't publicize, lost book write-off, but we publish, or we do this sort of you have to opt out of having a library card. We talk about, having everybody have a library card, and then as a board, we make a decision that we expect that there's a cost to that, and we budget for that.
So could you try to find out from some other locations that do that, those two options of how they do that? Whether we do it as a default of you get a library card versus they have to request one.
Yeah, some places do it one way, some the other. One of the things too that's one of the questions is whether there needs to be a formal memo of understanding with the school district in the library, or whether just a simple verbal agreement counts. But the fact that you guys are both school and library board, I think, makes that kind of thing easier.
We could probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question that I
Public
have.
comment.
We have a public comment.
comment, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
That's your superintendent.
Sure.
So handy that we are here tonight. So I just tell you, we do anything that we possibly could to facilitate this, right? All of our students with Picture Day get an ID card with their photograph on it. If there's some way to integrate the library card component of it into that, just with a sticker on the back or something of that nature, or if If it is with, perhaps a passive consent, so opt out if you don't want us to issue a library card, I know that we would be more than happy to have a hand in making sure that every student has a card. My wife is actually, I'll credit the one who just texted me about, they all get a picture card. And that could be a way to be able to combine something that we're already doing if, so whatever, Steve, you're able to find out about how other places are doing this on our end.
Okay.
Yeah, we just add a scannable code on it that the library
Right,
can
yeah, some
use.
sort of a, yeah, that's right, a scannable, yeah.
So-
And then you would, and with the picture ID
Right.
too, you could verify that with the kid as well. I mean.
And every year they get a new one, so,
Correct.
yeah, so you're not having a lot of, yeah, I mean, yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to go on record that we'll help however we can.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Great.
Do,
Thank
do elementary school kids have school IDs
They
too?
do, yes.
They do,
all of
Yeah,
them.
and they're really not used. They get the card at the start of the year after Pictures Day. So this would give them a purpose to hang on to it, and, yeah, so it could be an easy tool to use.
And we should at least, I don't know if we need an MOU, Brian, or whatever, we just explore that.
It depends exactly what kind of information we're gonna share, if there's actually any sharing of information,
I doubt we need to, right?
Well, would we need to share, though, an address and a phone number, so when books are lost, if there was any kind of contact? Hey, because, like, if I have a book that's lost, that, we didn't turn in, after a certain amount of days, they consider them lost, which I have had a few of those. Luckily, we found them and turned them in, but I get an email saying, hey, you're being fined X amount. So I think there would be some kind of identification tied to it, so you can get those notices.
Has to be something for the library.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I was originally thinking they'd have to sign that they want one, but maybe if one of these other jurisdictions has an idea how they do that, I don't.
Yeah.
What I don't want the district to get involved in is the book collection
Oh,
process.
no, that's
No,
not what we're
no.
suggesting.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna send you out personally.
Right, door to door, yeah.
Yes. I'll take them from people in the grocery store, but
Sure,
I won't,
good idea.
I'm not willing to go door to
Walmart.
door.
That would have been Joe's job.
And he would have done it well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Collins? That's good.
New business. Cost of living.
Okay, here's information about the cost of living adjustment as recommended by Social Security. They're recommending a 2% increase this year. And there was only a 0.3 increase last year and 0% the year before. So I'd like to ask the board to consider a 2% COLA raise for all of the library employees.
So I think we talked a little bit that you were gonna talk about coming back with a suggestion of raises. At least from this board member's perspective, I'd like to come back and say what we have done in the last 2 years. And then tie that together with this conversation.
Okay,
And understand the budgetary impact of that, okay? That's, would be my suggestion, and we can tie it all together. You can show us what Yolo County's doing, you can show us salaries in respective positions for Solano County. You can then also tie in what you're suggesting, which is appropriate. You said 15 to 20%, but come back and tell me what those budgetary impacts are. And then at the same time, tie in this 2%. That
Okay.
would be my recommendation. But there's 4 other board members, not just me, so.
Well, and this would be something, if we were looking at giving something more substantial, would we bypass the 2% and just give the substantial one? I don't feel like we can approve this if we're gonna look at,
Right.
to
Should put it
give
together.
more.
Or give a 2% COLA and then some other percent of a raise or something else. I mean, depends on, we could break it up and have it be the same thing and call it something else. And we do that sometimes with the school district side too, so.
I think it just should be all tied together. I mean, we're staring a pretty significant revenue increase in the face. So that means operationally, we're certainly in a position to be somewhat understanding of that. And I think it needs to be all folded together, and certainly so that we see what the total year impact of that is as well. So that's all I have on that.
I agree, that makes sense to look at it all at once.
okay.
So,
Okay.
public comment, no?
Any public comment? Can you keep it down in the front there, sir? We're trying to conduct business. Okay. All right.
Power
Moving on.
goes right to his head.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, all right. The next one is to add the extra help definition to policy 3015 and pertinent personnel policies. I gave everybody a copy of the page from the policy manual defining the different types of employee status. One thing that I would point out too, from the earlier letter, where it was stated that all the policies came from Greg Atkins' time, the personnel policies were all updated in 2014.
Right, I was going to ask that. In fact, I just looked at the letter again to make sure that I had heard that right, because it says right on here that they were revised 10/09/14, because I thought we'd revised this before, and so I just wanted to be sure. But,
Yeah, Scott went through and redid these.
Yeah.
And the process started when Patrick was here and then continued when I took over too.
Yeah.
So, and these came exactly from our attorney, like reviewed them,
Yes.
or did they come from other libraries?
They probably came originally from other libraries, and then Scott went through and did red lines on all the policies that he thought should be changed. But
It might be helpful if maybe in one of the staff meetings, if you could go over this with the employees, just so they're up to date. And I mean, maybe it's just a matter of them not seeing the handbook or understanding or, that sort of thing. Because I do feel badly that there's been a misunderstanding, but I recall reviewing the handbook before.
Could I make a comment?
sure.
Sure.
I believe that the policy in 2014 was just the personnel section and not the whole policy book.
Yeah, that's correct.
And there's a lot of other stuff in the other sections. And maybe that's what the person is referring to, I don't know. But for example, hours of operations, we're now open on Sundays. That's never been updated. There's a lot of things like that.
Needs to be reviewed.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's,
Okay.
so I think the 2014 was just the one section out of how many do we have? 5?
No, there are 8 sections, I
Okay.
believe.
Weren't we
And,
contracting?
and it says commission in there all throughout, and so it's.
Yeah, no, it
it's
definitely needs to be
not-
Yeah,
updated.
it was just, there was a specific reference to the extra help and to the employee status, and that was reviewed in 2014.
Yeah, but that didn't get put in, the extra help didn't get put in.
That's true, yeah.
But that was part of, that portion of it is part of the personnel section, the extra help.
And you were looking into a company to go through and
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, the
but-
company actually gave me some advice on this. I printed out the memo that they sent back to me too. But, okay, the way that the employee status is set up now, it's only, according to the policy manual, there's only regular probationary or temporary employees. But in practice, we do have extra help employees, and that isn't defined here. This question came up when one of our employees asked for bereavement pay. And I contacted an attorney at California Chamber of Commerce who said that looking at the employee status section, that since there is no extra help defined, that any employee would have to fall into one of the 3 categories, and that looking at that they would have to be considered to be a regular employee because they're no longer probationary, they've been here several years, they're no longer temporary because they've been here for a long time. So I think we need to add the definition of an extra help employee. And this is what I came up with going to the consulting people too, and with suggestions from Gina as well. But an extra help employee is one who is employed for the purpose of relieving or augmenting regular staff in the accomplishment of work. Extra help employees shall not be used to circumvent the filling of regularly allocated positions except on a temporary basis. Extra help employees cannot work more than 999 hours in a fiscal year. That's because if they go over that number, they have to be enrolled in CalPERS. So that's the cutoff for CalPERS. Extra help employees are not eligible for any benefits with the exception of paid sick leave, which is a state mandated benefit. But I would like to also add a few other things to that and not have it just be the sick leave. It would include bereavement, jury duty, military duty, a call to appear in court, and one that we already have provided, continuity of service. These people, if they work long enough, get longevity pay. But I would like that to be actually codified here.
So other than CalPERS, what are they not getting that a regular employee is getting?
They don't get vacation, they don't get holiday pay, and they don't get health benefits.
So,
That's true, they don't get CalPERS.
so what actual paragraphs are you going to add to policy 3015 in this document that we see here from the consultant?
I would add the definition,
So you're talking about the one you just read,
yeah,
and then what else?
but then I would also add, not have that last sentence, I would also include the,
The last sentence that says outlined in sick leave policy 3040?
yeah,
You're
Yeah, I
gonna
would say-
add, then you're gonna add what else?
I would add that they would be eligible for bereavement, jury duty.
So some form or additional words that are coming from your amendment statement below that the consultant suggested?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, so we would add bereavement, jury duty, military, call to appear in court, and continuity of service
so
to the
I'll just say
benefits.
this, whatever, I would like to see it documented exactly how you want to add it
Okay.
to this policy.
All right,
That's number one. And number two, I would say our attorneys need to review it for legality so that, and give us an opinion on what that really is, what we're signing up for on that. And then
okay,
if they say, okay, then I would bring that to us and bring their letter to that effect as
all
well.
right.
And while we're sort of generally on the subject then of the handbook, I'd like to start doing a regular review, and we do this with the school board, we do a regular review of all of our policies all the time. So at every board meeting, I'd like to see a portion of the handbook, and then we can just work on reviewing it going forward, so that we can be up to date.
Okay, do you want to do that before the attorney sees it or after the?
No,
attorney
you're
sees
talking about two different, she's just talking about the total. Am I
I'm
right?
talking about our total handbook, yeah. If we have a
Yeah.
handbook that's out of date and we have 8 sections,
it? Yeah, this
Um,
thing,
right, then we've got some reviewing to do on that. Other than it sounds like we started on the personnel section and we need some other updates.
yeah,
So I'd like to start doing that on a regular basis, and what we do on the school board side is we do it in sections, so we don't do it all at once, and we can actually review them and come back with comments and that sort of thing. So I'd like to start that process.
okay, all right.
So
The
you-
HR side is getting taken care of by the consultant, right? They're gonna go through the HR section of the handbook?
I have not come to an agreement with them as far as to how we're going to do it. They were willing to totally rewrite a policy manual for us, but I would like to have some input as to what certain policies are. I don't want them to totally change everything, so I'm trying to come up with some kind of,
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
compromise
you know,
with
that's the other comment too. I agree with your comment, but, you know, one thing that the school board has too is that CSBA giving
Right.
suggestions on everything.
Right, and so we can have some, whatever the, other,
Equal their,
right, so, or if there is some sort of, body out there that would give us suggestions, or if we want to use Solano counties. I mean, this can't all be like,
Yeah, no, it's
created
not.
from sort of, there has to be some precedent. Other folks have to have the things that we have,
Yeah,
right? So, so this isn't stuff that would be, I mean, maybe, you come up with some ideas, the staff has some input, that comes to us, we review it. I mean, this is a process of doing it. But what I think we don't want to do is not do it,
that's correct.
right? So we need to begin that process now. And I'm open to suggestions of how we do that, but I do want lots of input, and I want to start the process.
okay.
I just like to say, I think that's an excellent idea. I'm glad to hear it. I think that having Steve and you guys review it first pass, there's glaring stuff that you guys would just be able to cross out before going to the attorney, which cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So-
then one suggestion on that is that you take the current one and start redlining items before you even bring it to us. I mean, there's work to be done.
The
Right,
things
Yeah.
like the
We can
commission,
still
the-
see what you're redlining.
right.
And if that's the case, and there's some, what you would call common sense, simple things to do, then that could be the first step.
Right.
And then start to really review policy and look to other places at what things we might want to augment, delete, et cetera. But the redlining stuff that you're talking about in reference to like the commission and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I think you guys could begin that work tomorrow,
Right.
you know, and just schedule it as appropriate. And as Caitlin's saying, we're not looking to finish it tomorrow. Let's just get started.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there, but gosh, making a start?
Absolutely. Let's go. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, so you could just pick a certain number of pages each meeting for
That's
us to
exactly
go
what I'm
through.
saying,
Yeah,
right, exactly,
absolutely.
right. And so, and like we're just saying, so the first pass probably
Go for
is,
it.
you know, redlining, input from staff, suggestions from other places, that sort of thing. I mean, probably the last step is having the attorneys review it.
Absolutely.
Well, the last step is having us review it, but the second to last step is having the attorneys review it
you
before
feel
we make a
comfortable about
decision on it.
Absolutely. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Any other public comment? I don't know.
And then the last thing is just the approval of the minutes from last time.
Any questions about the minutes?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's it. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Key,
For this one, I don't really need.
key. We'll turn it back on in a second.